Hello, 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 and welcome to our nursing news you can use live at 5 Nursing Business and News with Baxter Professional Services and the Nurse Shark Academy. I'm Tina Baxter and I'm your host. Thank you for tuning in today. I wanted to go ahead and jump in with our affirmations for today, which is March the 1st, 2023. Happy Women's Month. So, Women's History Month. And so here are our affirmations. Number one, to change your life, you need to change your priorities. I like that. To change your life, you need to change your priorities. Our second affirmation, don't miss out on something that could be great just because it could also be difficult. Don't miss out on something great just because it could also be difficult. And then our last affirmation for today, sometimes all you need is a big leap of faith. Sometimes all you need is a big leap of faith. So that's our affirmation from the inspirational daily calendar that you can get from Amazon if you so choose. And again, Amazon's not paying me anything, nor the people that publish that paying me anything. I just happen to like the calendar and I like to share what I am learning. So that brings us up to the What I Am Learning segment. And this is coming from the book We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. And I love this segment that she put on there about putting in $1,000,000 systems. And she says, when scarcity thinking takes hold, you don't trust yourself. And this lack of trust actually leads to terrible financial decisions. Scarcity might cause you to sign up for a credit card with a high interest rate when you need to buy a new mattress instead of using your savings to pay the full amount with zero interest. She says, suddenly your $1,200 new mattress turns into a $3,600 mattress that takes you 2 years to pay off. That's wasting $2,400 worth of interest and 2 years of mental space wasted. Oh. She goes on to say, when you believe in your ability to make money and your ability to figure out any financial problem that may come your way, the constant financial anxiety starts to dissipate and you start making better financial decisions. One of the simplest ways to learn to believe in your ability to figure out financial problems is to create financial systems that combat scarcity. I love all of this that she puts in, and there's a lot to unpack in this. But I want to say this is an important thing. She says it's up to us to learn how to make smart financial decisions that capitalize on our income, intellectual property, and other assets so that they can take care of us and also take care of other people who need us. We are the saviors we are waiting for, and it starts with bookkeeping. So I love this book. So if you haven't gotten this book, this is a great book to read. Again, I love the book. No one's paying me for that. That book is available as well. And I can't remember where I purchased this book, but I'm pretty sure you can find it. So that is We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. A Woman's Guide to Earning More, Building Wealth, and Gaining Economic Power. So let's get on into our news segments because there's a lot to cover. I want to start with this first story because I'm actually going to have a longer discussion about this coming up in our blog post for today. But I wanted to share this. And this story is coming out of the Iowa Capitol Dispatch. And it's a nurse who adopted a patient's baby who was sanctioned by the state, unfortunately. So this nurse, Miriam Simon of Waverly, according to the Iowa Board of Nursing, violated state regulations that prohibits nurses from attempting to initiate an emotional, social, or business relationship with a patient for personal gain, regardless of the patient's consent. In addition, the board has also charged her with violating patient confidentiality regulations. The board alleges that Simon, who worked in the obstetrics unit at Decorah's Winneshiek Medical Center in September of 2021, cared for a woman and her newborn son. While providing that care, Simon allegedly, quote, engaged in conversations with the woman as to whether she wished to keep the baby or place him for adoption. The baby, whose name Ezra, was eventually adopted by Simon and her husband, Travis. Ezra is now 17 months old and in good health. Here's where things went downhill for this poor nurse. Simon says the mother reached out to her after he was born. She says the hospital for some reason had both my first and last name on my name badge, and she later told me that's how she was able to get in touch with me. She said I wrote down your first and last name because we had a really good connection, and I just really liked you. Simmons said the mother was in the United States on a visa and attending school. The woman risked deportation if she dropped out, but was also having a difficult time caring for the child while attending school and living in a dormitory. So she says she reached out to her and asked her if she would consider adopting her child. She said, "No, I have 7 children, and my seventh is 8 years old, and we are done." After Simmons' husband expressed interest in the birth mother's proposal, Simmons reconsidered and eventually told the woman she and her husband wanted to adopt the boy. Adoption, of course, was expensive, but they were able to get that done. There weren't any issues until she was at work one day and mentioned to a colleague that she was tired and forgotten what it was like to have a newborn at home. The coworker asked her about this, and she said she adopted a former patient's infant, and the coworker, quote, flipped, telling her that she had crossed patient caregiver boundaries and had violated federal patient privacy laws. Soon after, the hospital terminated its contract with her, and 7 months later, she was called by an investigator from the Iowa Board of Nursing. So, according to the investigation, they determined that she did violate some things. And so the board agreed to settle the charges with a stipulation that she complete 30 hours of educational training on patient privacy and take a 3-day course in professional boundaries and ethics. Um, so there, there's the story there. So that started the story, but here's where it picks up. Because and when I found this story, I'll go more of it into the blog about why this was a sticky situation for this nurse. But as more went on, there's more that came up afterwards. And so the Iowa Capitol Dispatch has since reported that this nurse has now been fired from her job because of a mistake by the Iowa Board of Nursing. So the Board of Nursing claimed on their website that she was financially exploiting a patient. Now, I should share in the first article, they did say that it cost the nurse $25,000 to adopt this child because adoption is not cheap. And now they're saying that she financially exploited a patient. So in January, the Iowa Board of Nursing sanctioned Miriam Simmons of Waverly for violating state regulations pertaining to patient privacy and for attempting an initiative an emotional, social, or business relationship with a patient for personal gain, regardless of the patient's consent. Those charges stem from Simmons' decision to adopt the baby of a patient she treated while working in the obstetrics unit at Decorah's Winneshiek Medical Center in September 2021. The hospital fired Simmons after learning of the adoption in 2022. The Iowa Capitol Dispatch reported the board sanction on February 17th, and 5 days later, on Wednesday of this week, Simmons was fired by her new employer, Cresco Regional Health Services of Howard County. So she had since lost her job at the hospital because of this breach in the sanction. She got a new job, and then the board put this information on their website. So as the Cresco Hospital apparently based its decision, at least in part, on incorrect information the Board of Nursing had transmitted to a national database called Nurses. The nurses.com website and the National Council of State Board of Nursing Public Repository of Disciplinary Data. Simmons said that while checking the nurses' database, hospital officials and Cresco saw erroneous information suggesting Simmons had been sanctioned by the Board of Nursing for the financial exploitation of a patient, a serious offense that can lead to criminal charges. After Simmons' attorney contacted the Board of Nursing about the error, a board official apologized and the information on the nurse's website was corrected. Simmons said Friday that the correction so far hasn't made any difference in her employment status. She's still without a job. And so now she's questioning whether or not she wants to remain in nursing, even though it's a job that she loves. So according to the Board of Nursing, it was the 43-year-old Simmons who had initiated efforts to adopt Ezra, but Simmons said it wasn't accurate. She had said that the patient actually contacted her. Um, so she has got an attorney, Steve Lombardi of West Des Moines, who said he's unhappy with the Iowa Board of Nursing because of the incorrect information that was relayed to nurses, and because the nurses site doesn't host the detailed board documents that show Simmons never admitted any wrongdoing as part of her settlement agreement. So now she's still without a job as of now, as far as we know. And officials at the Iowa Board of Nursing and Regional Health Services of Howard County didn't respond to requests for comment on the matter by the Iowa Capitol. So I just wanted to share that because this is again where nurses can find themselves either very caring, we're very loving, we're very compassionate. We want to do the best thing for the patient, for the child in question, because technically they were both her previous patients. But yet you can see that there was some questionable decision making that happened here, and some consequences. And so this is something we need to think through. So I encourage you to take a chance to read the blog, and we'll be going up later on tonight. We'll go over this a little bit more. Okay, so let's go on to our next story because I want to make sure we cover some things. Okay, this I found particularly disturbing. This is coming out of Michigan and Lawyers Weekly. And I just happened to come across the story, and it says that this was an extremely difficult medical malpractice case that was declined by several other law firms, according to the plaintiff's counsel. The case involved a 17-year-old who went to urgent care with persistent diarrhea, where he was given anti-diarrhea medication and an antibiotic. 3 days after the urgent care visit, the patient suffered a cardiac arrest and was found to have low potassium. The patient developed residual cognitive impairment. The patient was admitted to a tertiary care center where multiple specialists were consulted. There were numerous hypotheses as to the reason for the arrest. However, no cause was ever identified, although no treating physicians had ever hypothesized a low potassium level excuse me, may have caused the arrest. This is what the plaintiff alleged. And so I saw this case about this low potassium, and I happened to look at this story, and there seems to be some incorrect information on this story. But I kind of wanted to share this because of how legal cases often play out. And so it says, specifically, the plaintiff alleged that the urgent care center should have obtained a CBC. Now, a CBC is a complete blood count. A CBC will not tell you about a potassium level. So I think that was incorrect, and it should be CMP, Comprehensive Metabolic Panel. But anyway, because they're saying it would have revealed a low potassium level. The defense supports that the care was totally inappropriate. Was totally appropriate. The plaintiff argued that the standard of care required a complete blood count. Again, a CBC is not going to give you a potassium level. It is a comprehensive metabolic panel that you want to order. So I think this case is a little incorrect in that. I've looked at several CBCs with and without differentials, and I can tell you there is no potassium on a CBC. So I bring this up because having a good expert help you with a case like this might be beneficial, particularly when you're reporting something and having the information wrong. The plaintiff was able to present evidence that during a cardiac arrest, the body actually releases potassium from the cells into peripheral blood, and therefore a pre-arrest level would have been even lower than the potassium level at the time of arrest. So that's a possibility. So I'm bringing that up to say, if you're going to hire an expert, make sure you get it right. And I don't know if it's the reporting of the case or what, but CBC is not the correct test to look at a potassium level. Anyway, I'm moving on, but I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, so this is a story from Arizona. And this is about Phoenix University, which I find interesting. It says Phoenix University at risk of losing accreditation, state board to close their nursing program. And this was reported by Phoenix 3 TV, CBS 5. And it says hundreds of Valley nursing students are in limbo after the state board voted unanimously in its intent to close the nursing program at Aspen University. The board is coming down on Aspen because of low pass rates and other violations of the law. Arizona's family has learned that Aspen's accreditation is at risk, which means they could lose all their licenses for other programs in Arizona and across the country, leaving thousands of students high and dry with a lot of student loan debt. And this is where we're seeing some problems with some of these programs and these for-profit programs. Because a lot of times they want to run people through as fast as they can in order to increase their profits. So, according to this, and there's a lot of information here, and you can certainly read this story. This is something we kind of reported on previously, but I wanted to bring this up because this affects those nursing students, and that's the problem. Is that these students are now facing whether or not they can go. So it's according to the report, only 58% of Aspen students passed the licensing exam, the NCLEX, compared to the national requirement of 80%. The state nursing board in Aspen agreed to a probational period that allowed the for-profit university to complete the program with its existing 400 students, but now the state board of nursing is expressing concern regarding public safety and student safeness. So there's the issue. The board unanimously agreed on their intent to shut the nursing program down at their next meeting. However, Aspen has pushed back on the low pass rate, claiming that they have 82% as of 2 weeks ago. So we'll see what happens, more of what's happening with their accreditation and their pass rate. So we'll see. But again, this is another instance of nursing schools, unfortunately, a lot of them in the for-profit sector, trying to push out these nurses to meet the demand and maybe not doing the correct thing in teaching them. And again, this is aside from the Florida nursing scandal case with all the fake diplomas, but this is an issue that we've been talking about in academia, about whether or not nursing schools are doing the right thing, and maybe they're teaching to the NCLEX, teaching to the task, and not necessarily preparing them for working in the real world. So we'll be following this case. I hope Aspen can turn this around, because I hate that for the students, but I also hate it for the university. I want them to succeed, because we do need more nurses out there. So we'll see what happens. This is another information. This came from McKnight's Long-Term Care, and I found this kind of interesting. This is about a nursing home that's being sued because a management company diverted $1.8 million in COVID relief funds, according to this report. So it says nursing homes can be attractive targets for prosecutors looking for COVID fraud, but aggressive enforcement policies may make it difficult for, quote, good actors to conduct businesses, legal observers cautioned Thursday. This is according to their report. It says, the latest tangled web involved a shuttered nursing home in Sioux City, Iowa. What is it about Iowa today? Sioux City, Iowa, where the owner, Indian Hills Healthcare, alleges that the company it hired to manage the facility made off with $500,000 in government reimbursement, according to a report in the Iowa Capital Dispatch. The company also diverted $1.8 million in federal COVID relief funding awarded to the home, the owner said. The management company Health Dimensions Consulting has denied the accusation and said Indian Hills still owes it $129,000 in unpaid fees, according to the reports. Corey Flashner, a member of the Mintz law firm and former assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Massachusetts, said investigating COVID relief fraud is a critical mission at the Department of Justice. But while not every fraud will rise to prosecutorial prominence, the vulnerability of nursing home residents will lead to heightened scrutiny. So he says DOJ can't prosecute every case of COVID fraud. They don't have the resources to prosecute all of it. But allegations involving 1.8 million in stimulus funds plus a vulnerable victim class, that is going to attract additional scrutiny. Prosecutors also pay attention to their local news, Flashner noted. Accordingly, coverage of Touchstone Healthcare community closing shortly after a judge appointed a receiver in July 2022 because of immediate danger to the residents would have raised questions from a legal perspective. So Touchstone spent 4 years on the CMS that's Medicare special focus facilities list due to care issues before its closing. It goes on to say, as lawyers for vendors swarmed over the debris of Indian Hills Health Care, alleging they were owed $500,000, another group entered the fray. Health Services Group lawsuit against the Indian Health alleges that the company claimed it sold Touchstone to a New York company called Queen's Sweet Jane, and it was this company that was responsible for paying bills. Health Services Group claims Indian Hills deliberately defrauded other vendors. So this is the issue, and again, it goes back to what we talked about before: how nursing homes are funded and where the money goes, and having to follow that paper trail. So it's going to be interesting to see as more these cases become prosecuted, what happens with this. So there's more to that story, but I don't have the time to read it all. That's why it's out here. All right, so let's go on to this story. This is a follow up to a story that we had previously discussed, and this is about the nursing home administrator that was charged criminally for negligence in after the hurricane death in Florida when the residents died of overheating. So this is an Associated Press article from ABC News. And it says, out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, a judge acquitted on Friday a Florida nursing home administrator accused of causing the overheating deaths of 9 patients after Hurricane Irma in 2017, saying that his employees had provided care and prosecutors had not proven he should have known their lives were in danger. Circuit Court Judge John Murphy III dismissed the charges against George or Jorge Carballo during the third week of his trial, days before it was expected to go to jury. He had faced 9 counts of manslaughter, which could have sent him to prison for up to 15 years. Carballo, 65, was operating the rehabilitation center at Hollywood Hills in September 2017 when the storm knocked out power to the 150-bed facility's air conditioning. Temperatures rose inside the building over 2+ days before the patients started dying. Carballo's attorney, David Frankel, had argued that prosecutors had failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that their client had acted with reckless disregard for human life or had demonstrated conscious indifference to his patient's safety, 2 necessary components for conviction. Murphy agreed, saying that there is, quote, undisputed evidence that Carballo's employees had tried to provide care to the patients. Judges have the ability to unilaterally acquit defendants if they believe prosecutors haven't met their burden of proof. The Broward County State Attorney's Office said they will file a motion on Monday requesting that Murphy reconsider his decision. Among their arguments was that Carballo failed to order the patients evacuated to Memorial Regional Hospital, a facility directly across the street that still had its air conditioning. The deceased patients, ranging from age 57 to 99, had body temperatures of up to 108 degrees Fahrenheit. Administrators also participated in statewide conference calls with regulators, including one where then Governor Rick Scott said nursing homes should call his cell phone for help. After the air conditioner failed, Carballo and his facility manager contacted Florida Power and Light Seeking Restoration. When that didn't work, they called Scott's cell phone and county and city officials. No help came. Fire officials responding to the deaths ordered the facility evacuated in the morning of September 13. A few hours later, FPL arrived to make their repair, which took less than 30 minutes. The facility never reopened. And so, as I would like to say, I'm curious because I thought that nursing homes and all facilities had to have emergency generators. So were not the emergency generators working? And would it not power the air conditioning? So those are questions that we have. There's a lot that was in this trial, and I don't have the actual trial documents to answer those questions, but that raises a lot of questions. We don't have, and that goes back to the previous story we had a week or two ago, that we don't have good plans in place for when disasters happen in nursing homes. We have like plans like if there's a fire, where to evacuate to, or maybe if there's a tornado, where do we evacuate to? But we don't really have good plans for things like what happens if, the temperature gets a certain degree. A lot of places don't have those plans in place. So maybe that's something we need to look at from a safety standpoint. I'm certainly not begrudging this nursing home administrator being acquitted. We'll see what happens if there's any further developments with the story. But I wanted to share that because I wanted to um, let you know what was happening. Okay, so our next story, this is coming out of the great state of Ohio. Yes, this is from Ohio. Governor signs executive order launching task force to address quality of nursing homes. So this is coming out of the state of Ohio. And it says Ohio Governor Mike DeWine on Friday signed an executive order creating the Ohio Governor's Nursing Home Quality and Accountability Task Force. Ohio has almost 960 nursing homes in the state, DeWine said in his executive order. While this ranks Ohio third in the list of states with the most nursing homes, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has ranked Ohio 39th in terms of quality. According to DeWine, 40% of Ohio nursing homes have had a decline in their overall nursing facility CMS star rating since 2018. The state task force, which was a topic DeWine touched on in his 2023 State of the State address, will study issues surrounding quality of life and quality of care in Ohio's nursing home on an expedited timeline. The task force will travel to communities across the state between now and May to hear from nursing home residents and their loved ones about their experiences before issuing a report on its findings. DeWine is reported as saying, I promised that this task force would move quickly because we can't afford to wait. While many of our state's nursing homes are very good, others are not meeting the standards we expect for those caring for our older loved ones. All too often, we hear of preventable tragedies occurring, medication errors, failure to provide care, poor infection prevention and control, and sometimes even elder abuse. This is not acceptable in Ohio. We need to take action. The task force is chaired by Ursula J. McElroy, director of the Ohio Department of Aging. The task force also will include representatives of those with lived experience, family caregivers, nursing home administrators, and state regulators. We are going to put people first in everything we do, McElroy said. Nursing home residents, their caregivers, family members, and friends will be at the forefront of this conversation from day one because no voices are more valuable in this discussion than those of the people living it every day. Well, I would like to say it would be great if, in putting this task force together, that please don't leave out nurses and nursing assistants in your task force, the people that are actually delivering the care, because I do believe they have a lot to say as well. So they're holding their inaugural meeting at Ohio Department of Public Safety Shipley Atrium. The first community meeting listening session will be held the following day at Columbus State Communities Event Center in Mitchell Hall. So those of you that are in Ohio, pay close attention to this and, make your voice known if you can. And as a person who had her father in a facility in Ohio and Michigan, I can tell you this is very important. All right, our next story comes from scrubsmagazine.com. This says CHI Health settles suit over unlawful on-call nurse pay. I find this interesting. So this is coming out of Nebraska. It says the Nebraska health system has settled a lawsuit brought by several of its nurses over the pay they receive for remotely answering patient calls and texts. The providers allege that the company violated state and federal laws by paying them just $2 an hour for their work on weekdays with an extra 50 cents an hour on the weekends. CHI Health has agreed to an $800,000 as part of the settlement for more than 4 years after the complaint was first filed. The work was performed in 2018, and the hourly wage the nurses received was below the federal minimum hourly wage of $7.25 an hour and Nebraska's minimum wage of $9 an hour. The nurses' pay increased to $3 an hour for those who work 50 hours or less per week and $4 an hour for those who work more than 50 hours. The on-call shifts lasted 14 hours. The nurses added that they weren't compensated for overtime. Attorney Kathleen Neary, who is representing the nurses, confirmed that the nurses lost wages and retirement contributions because of the low pay. She asked the judge to certify the class action, which was approved. Attorney Vince Powers, who is representing the nurses, said the payout will be distributed among the plaintiffs, but the individual amount depends on how many nurses file a claim. The notice of the settlement was sent to 2,643 current and former CHI employees, but as of December 21st, there were only 168 claims filed. Powers said nurses eligible for compensation have until March 6th to file. The terms of the settlement were approved in court on Tuesday. The order said the settlement amount is to equal to around 47% of the maximum wages owed to the class action members, which, quote, compares favorable to results achieved in other wage and hour class action suits approved in this circuit. The court said the settlement was designed to avoid significant expenses and avoid future litigation to ensure the members have received a timely payout. In addition to the $80,000 in compensation, the settlement includes $96,000 in litigation expenses and just under $654,000 in legal fees. So this was not cheap to prosecute, let me tell you. When asked for comment, a spokesperson for CHI Health said the company appreciates all the work the nurses do. Quote, they're on the front lines of patient care and core to our mission. We pay our nurses generously and go to great lengths to ensure compliance with all applicable wage and hour laws. While she denied the allegation, she said, Common Spirit, CHI's parent company, made the business decision to resolve the case. We look forward to having this matter behind us and continuing to execute our vision and values. Can I just say this as a person that at one time had been on this on-call thing as a staff nurse? Yeah, it was common for them to pay you something like, $2 an hour to sit at home and be by the phone if they had to call you in. And then if you get called in, you get paid extra. And if you went into overtime, you got paid your overtime. What I find interesting is that these nurses weren't just sitting at home waiting to be called in, but they were actually answering patient calls by being on call. So they were technically working. And for 14 hours. So they were technically working. And I think they probably should have been compensated for that appropriately. But let me know what you think. Okay, so I wanted to end this with our nurses making a difference segment. And these nurses have received the 2022 Nurse.org Icon Awards. So this is from Nurse.org, and I wanted to say congratulations to these nurses. So we have Jonathan V. Lamas, Nurse Leader of the Year. Brandy Pinkerton, Most Inspirational Nurse. Kathleen Green, Nurse Creator of the Year. Spencer Jones, Nurse Innovator of the Year, and Christine, New Nurse Go-Getter. They're asking you for this time to vote for the Icon of the Year from these people in this category. So I think that's wonderful that these nurses were recognized. And I find it interesting that one of the past persons that were honored was Nurse Blake. I thought that was interesting. So I just want to give you some information about each of these nurses so you'll know a little bit about them. So Jonathan Lamas, I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, Jonathan, is a psychiatric nurse practitioner and nurse leader. He uses his platform to educate, inspire, and advocate the importance of mental health care by stressing the importance of collaboration, mutual trust, and cultural inclusivity with his patients. In addition to being a provider, his leadership roles include being the West Coast University Alumni Chapter President, where he helps empower future nurses to realize their potential, and is also an influential activist and not only supporting but also promoting mental health initiatives within nursing and the healthcare sector. Then we have Robinette RN. Um, Her nomination for being a business nurse, so she was also nominated. So congratulations to her. She's a nurse recruiter now. Uh, Alice Haskins. Um, she is a transformational speaker. She also performs work for nursing galas, mentoring, scholarship awards, etc. Mark Klimick was a retired nursing professor, and so he was nominated for his contribution to nurse education. So I'm just reading some of these people that are on here because these are people that were nominated but may not have gotten chosen. But this is great. So we have Rebecca Love. She was nominated as a powerful voice in the nursing profession. She was the first nurse to deliver a TEDx talk and have it featured on TED.com. Most inspirational nurse, we have Brandy Pinkerton, who has won the nomination. She inspires travel nurses. She loves new and even veteran travel nurses with her wisdom, and she treats everyone she comes in contact with um, like a friend. You have Kelsey Irby, who was also as a finalist, um, and she's the nurse that made national headlines. As we talked about her previously on the show for calling 911 due to unsafe staffing in the ER at Washington State Hospital. So remember her. Then you have Ask Nurse Alice podcast, um, where she was on there. So that was great. And then we have Brandy Pinkerton, who is a travel nurse mentor as well. Leanna Bridges, who's a travel NICU nurse, and she's working on further education and owns a travel group for women. Laura Menard. I'm keeping this around because I want to bring some of these nurses on the show. Um, she is the founder of the Successful Nurse Coaches Program. So this is great. So these are people that were nominated, and so she has a weekly podcast as well. So I want to share that with you. Kathleen Green, who won the Nurse Creator of the Year. It says she always creates interesting educational posts about healthcare and topics, and her content is very engaging. Nurse innovator, Spencer Jones. To tell you a little bit about Spencer. He is a nurse entrepreneur and the inventor of Safe Break Vascular, a patented breakaway device for IV catheters that reduces IV complications and preserves IV catheters. This is great. So he's done a lot. Let's move on. New nurse go-getter. We've got Christine. And so she's been on Instagram, and she helps new nurses. As a new nurse, I get super overwhelmed. Christine is a breath of fresh air during those times. I just want to let her know how much we appreciate her content. So I want to say congratulations to all of these nurses. There's so many people on here. And they've got a nursing student to watch, Alexis Heel. She is doing her AD and BSN concurrently with each other. They applaud her for her hard work and dedication. And so people have nominated her, and she's won. And so there's a lot of people out there. Just to let you know that those who win the nurse.org, icon award will get a $500 Visa gift card, an official award trophy, and featured article on nurse.org. Category winners, all 6 winners will receive a $200 Visa gift card and a nurse.org icon award official plaque. And finalists, all 30 finalists and 5 finalists in each category will receive a digital award badge naming them nurse.org Icon Award finalists of 2022. So congratulations to all those nurses. Please look them up on nurse.org. I think that's wonderful. And again, as I said, last year, winner, most influential nurse of the year was Nurse Blake. I think that's wonderful. I followed him on Instagram. So I encourage you to follow him on Instagram too. Um, and just a few other past award winners. Um, Best Entertainment for Nurses, Nurse Blake with his PTO comedy tour. Best Media Outlet, New York Times, Death Through a Nurse's Eyes. And we covered that story too. Remember that on our show? I think that's wonderful. And then Nurse Image of the Year, Hero by Mijhib Blinart. Legislator of the Year, Senator Sherrod Brown and Representative Jan Schakowsky introduced the Senate Bill 1567, Nurse Staffing Standards for Hospital Patient Safety and Quality Care Act of 2021. So I just wanted to say congratulations to those nurses making a difference. And I have one more story that I found very inspirational. And this is another nurse making a difference. This is coming from a university. Sorry, I'll get the name in a moment. But it's talking about this nurse. He says a third chance at life, how a two-time cancer survivor, Dalton Noix, I hope I pronounced your name right, was getting his master's in nursing at CWRU. So he says Dalton Noix is a survivor while studying business at the Wharton School of Nursing at Pennsylvania. Noix noticed a small lump near his clavicle. Only 19 years old at the time, he saw a nurse practitioner who immediately sent him to the emergency room for further screening. This is again why I want to share this story, because not only is he the hero in the story, but also is this nurse practitioner who goes unnamed. Devastating news followed. It was Hodgkin's lymphoma. After a half a dozen rounds of chemotherapy, he was feeling well enough to return to school, but things had changed. Disillusioned with business, he switched his major to public health. He briefly considered pursuing a medical degree, but soon realized it wasn't the right fit. He said, I absolutely hated it. At the time, the cancer was still too fresh in my life. He said, I started seeing a therapist to address my trauma, but I recognized that I couldn't provide the quality health care I wanted for people if I was still dealing with that. Medical school tends to be sterile and clinical. I wanted to be more personal. I can understand that. I can really relate to that. During the last year of his undergraduate studies, Noax noted a small rash on his neck and visited the same nurse practitioner who had predicted his first diagnosis. She just looked at me and said, based on your history, this shows signs of thyroid cancer. I was devastated. Fortunately, all that was needed this time was a small surgery over spring break, and he was again cancer-free. So now he is back and getting his master's degree. And so I want to say congratulations to him on beating cancer twice, but also continuing your dreams and going for your degree. And to that nurse practitioner who caught it, you are the bomb. And so I want to say congratulations to all those nurses making a difference. All right, this is getting close to the end of our segment. So let's talk about some things that are up and coming for the month of March. And I didn't get a chance to put them on the show notes, but I will update those. But coming up in the month of March, we have let's see. Well, exciting. On March the 8th, 9th, and 10th, we have the 100X conference. So we will not be having anything major going on that day. But we do have coming up on March the 25th is our TB training class. So if you're needing to get certified in TB, that's a great time to take that class because we have that available. On March the 29th, we have, this is our big event, our Nurse Shark Finance Workshop. Woohoo! This is our Nurse Shark Academy Freedom Finance Workshop. I'm very excited to have that. We are live streaming on LinkedIn and our Facebook page. This is free, but I'm asking you to get registered so that you can attend, okay? Because I want to know who's coming. We're going to live stream that. We're going to talk about those 3 big myths that we have on starting our business. One is, I don't know where to start. Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to help you find out where to start. Number two, I don't have the time. Well, we're going to talk about those myth busters there and how you can find the time to launch your business in your busy schedule. I can give you a personal testimony because I've done it while working full time and having another side job. It's a long story, but we're going to talk about those strategies to help you get started in your business. And the last hurdle is that financial hurdle of I don't have enough money. We're going to talk about that and go hard on that, on how you can launch your business when you don't think that you have the capital and the funds. We can talk about how to raise that money, how to do this, and how to get started even by taking those baby steps. So we're going to be talking about some of those things. So join us for our Nurse Shark Freedom Finance Workshop that is March the 29th from 3 to 5. It will be live streamed on our Facebook page and also onto our Nurse Shark Academy page and our LinkedIn page. So you'll find those events there. Join us. And with that, I'm going to say and bid you a good night. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your week and see you next time.